Alright, we are going over the craziest Blue Lock U20 World Cup hot takes. After 2 games, many people's opinions have changed from certain characters, takes on the current World Cup, or flat out predictions. I've asked my community for their hot takes, and from over 150 submissions, I picked some of the best and craziest ones. Of course, I'll be rating these takes from very hot, nobody agrees with you, I don't even know how you came up with a take like that, to an ice cold rating. This is something I can agree with, and many people would agree with too. However, there's gonna be a lot of slander, a lot of controversial takes. Like this first take, Isagi proved he is better than Hiryo at the end. So to defend their take, Gondo said, even though Isagi wasn't good at the start, it's really about how you finish. He beat out Hiryo admitted it, then brushed it off, so we saw Isagi's rebel state transcend both Blue Lock and Hiryo. What did I just read? Now immediately, one singular play doesn't make you instantly better, and this take is kind of just crazy to me, because how could you ignore everything that happened to him at the start of the match just because of one play at the end of the game? Throughout the game, Isagi was just getting bullied. Hiryo took the ball from him, then told him he's not built like that, posted up on him many times too. But a small crumb of Isagi somehow winning made all of that obsolete. That doesn't make sense to me, on top of the fact that we need to see more of the rebel state. It was one singular play, and a whole aspect in Blue Lock is about reproducibility. We need to be able to see Isagi do it time and time again for him to be quote-unquote better than Hiryo. He hasn't had the opportunity, so we can't just jump the gun and say he transcended Hiryo with one play. He didn't adapt to every phenomenon. He's not Maharaga. It was only in a battle of luck. Still technically a win, but Hiryo was dominant in every other way. I'll admit that Isagi did good on that last play, but I can't justify him proving himself better than Hiryo off of a singular play. Give it more time, but at the current moment, hell no, this is a very, very hot take. Now y'all get the idea of some of the takes we'll be covering here. Staying on the topic of the France game, of course he has to be brought up. He's like a campfire story at this point, itoshi Rin's character. Out of the 150 takes, there was probably a fifth of them calling Rin a seller, a fraud, amongst other things, and I think most people would agree with that. Y'all know I'm a Rin fan too, so y'all are smiling ear to ear, just playing with my emotions. But that's also why this certain take stood out to me, saying Rin missing the goal was not his fault, and more so Isagi's. Eric with the CK says, if you look back at the Kaiser impact versus direct shot we saw in the NEL, Isagi said Kaiser kept them from hitting the ball squarely, so by his logic, even if it's annoying, he should have let Rin shoot and score. Now, as a Rin fan, I could just cope and say, yeah, I agree with this, but I won't be delusional, y'all. We gotta keep it unbiased. This was mostly Rin's fault. I don't know how Isagi is getting this big of a stray here. Isagi won the 1v1 against Hiryo fair and square. He was also mid-kick. The one interrupting that was itoshi Rin. Technically, your point still stands. Isagi has a little part to blame in it because he still took the shot knowing Rin was coming, but that completely gets overshadowed by Rin's actions. He had a bigger role in that missed shot. If Rin wasn't a factor there, Isagi would have scored according to the literal manga itself. And if we're really pointing fingers, Isagi literally says it's not Rin's fault, but for him following Ego's philosophy. Both Ego and Isagi aren't guilty by association though. It was kind of a super irrational play because Rin was specifically targeting Isagi. The simplest way I can put it is Rin is following his own instincts. Literally his whole character, from his backstory to destroyer mode to him feeling abandoned, leading to him interrupting Isagi, was following his instincts. However, Rin's instincts just happen to be in line with Ego's theory. His instinct of destroying Isagi just happened to be going for that goal to the last second. So it wasn't Rin following Ego's philosophy word for word. Like, imagine if it was Barou shooting the ball. Rin wouldn't have felt that same way towards Barou. It's because it was specifically Isagi, and because it was his own instinct, the blame mostly falls on him. So for this rating, I'm gonna give this a pretty hot take. I don't think many people would agree with you, but I do think you made some good points. You didn't completely burn down the kitchen, but he's still mostly to blame. Now, this is a take for the France game as a whole, and something I've seen so widely debated in the community at the current moment, and it's that the France game is the worst game of the series. Dumb Flame's argument for this take is that by itself, it's a very good story, but in the context to the rest of Blue Lock, it has almost zero payoff. Many things leading up to the game have not been paid off, and it's wasted potential. I do think this is the biggest debate in the community right now. No matter what side you're on, whether you think this game is good or bad, bad, you'd find it surprising that I've seen it be almost 50-50 when it comes to comments. People either hate this game or they love it. To address the take, I'm assuming you're talking about France's expectations, like Charles not having a chemical reaction with Loki, and maybe some players not getting any screen time. I've seen a lot of other creators dunk on this game too, but it's far from being the worst. Y'all remember, we got the third selection games, most of the early games. This France game does outdo it. Don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of flaws. I agree that it's weird to narratively hype something up like Charles and Loki's chemical reaction just to have a zero mention of it, as well as the other players getting like 1 or 0 feats. Aiku, Gagamaru, Kunigami, Shido, Atoya, just to name a few. That's not even a few, that's a lot. So if one of your favorites are those characters, you obviously wouldn't enjoy it as much. And that does make sense, but to come to their defense, the Hugo philosophy and just Hugo's character was peak. That was like the greatest thing for mankind as a whole. Looking back, I wouldn't say that far, but Isagi's luck battle was very hype too. Other hype moments, I get they maybe didn't deliver on, so I see your argument of it being disappointing. I personally think the France game would have benefited so much if they increased the chapter count. That way we don't get so many players ghosting, and maybe we see some more offensive plays from Loki and Charles, and then Gagamaru gets an actual block. Aiku touches the ball. So in general, I don't think this is the worst game of BLUELOCK. I think it's average to above average, but I can also acknowledge the flaws even though I disagree. So I'm gonna give this a mild to hot rating because I also know a lot of people think this is one of the worst games too. Now we move on to new gen scaling, everyone's favorite debate that nobody can agree on. And with the introduction of Hugo, we already got people saying Hugo is the best new gen. Coming from Geoduck, he says he has the same feats as Sai, but on a stronger BLUELOCK. Kaiser is comparable to Isagi, but Hugo dogged on Isagi, so he could dog on Kaiser. Lorenzo is a Hiyori victim, and a Bunny is low on feats, but he has great portrayal. Finally, ending it saying Hugo did better than Loki. Now, I'm gonna be doing a new gen ranking video one of these days, so yeah, get ready for the fire that will be that comment section, so I'll save my rankings for then. But to simply answer it, I don't think Hugo is the best new gen. I agree he outperformed Loki, but in terms of narrative, Bunny joined the first team of Barcha midway through the season, scored an insane goal that we saw with our own eyes, and then he has 11 off-screen goals too. So already, Bunny is higher because you have to take in consideration of both feats and narrative, and I think Loki, after that last goal, still keeps his spot. The story is pretty much hyping him as the big bad too. Hugo is really good though. He absolutely carried probably the hardest game so far, and I agree with you. He outperformed Loki this game, but in terms of narrative and feats, I don't think he's quite there. So I'm gonna give this a pretty hot take. I think a majority of people would disagree with you, but I think some people would also put Hugo higher and Loki lower. We've gone over a lot of France hot takes, so let's move on to the next game and other World Cup takes. First, we got England will end in a draw. Now, the defense for this case is that if Japan draws against England, Japan will advance by goal difference since they won 4-0 against Nigeria. That narratively, it makes sense since Onazi could have an awakening and score against England, making them slightly lower in goal difference. Straight out of the gate, I love this take because this is one way to make the England game very, very exciting. Most people think this game is gonna end in a win, and for good reason. We gotta qualify through to play against Spain and the knockouts, so we all know we're gonna make it past the group stage, but making it a draw makes it unpredictable, or at least better than the expected result. Either way, we're still gonna qualify, so might as well make it the most interesting way possible. That way as well, if we do draw against England, we're going back-to-back games without winning. And then the first knockout stage game, which is theorized to be against Brazil, will be BLUELOCK making their comeback. I also think it comes full circle. Either Isagi's last-minute goal in Nigeria is the goal that made the difference, or Onazi, inspired by BLUELOCK, is the one to save them in the end. Barely winning, it doesn't feel good too. So it's way more interesting if they do end up going down this route. I know a lot of people do expect us to win this match though. I just think there's a lot more they can do narratively if they do end up drawing. So for this rating, I personally agree, but we'll give this a mild take since a lot of people think we're gonna win, a pretty 50-50 between them winning and drawing. I also wanted to cover some hot takes for characters that haven't really gotten the spotlight. This one says Chigiri needs to be a striker. Coming from eMental64, he comes off strongly saying Rin needs to be benched, and then the left area could be occupied by Chigiri. England needs to watch out for his 44 Panther snipe, and he would basically play alongside barou and Cheeto. Now, I feel like this take kind of contradicts itself because it says Chigiri needs to be a striker, and not all forwards are strikers, but all strikers are forwards, if that makes sense. I get the point you're making here, though. Chigiri does need to go up, and by that interpretation, yes, I completely agree. It's honestly mind-boggling to me why they haven't even played him on the left side yet. I get that maybe Ego wants him as a crosser by putting him on the right side, but his whole NEL training was for the left. England was the team we saw Chigiri play for in the NEL as well, so I think he'll have some time to shine here. It's kind of weird that Rayo's copy of Chigiri also got a goal before him, so I personally want to see this. I think a lot of people want to see and agree with this too, so for this take, I'm gonna give it very cold. This is something we can get behind. Now, next up is the love him or hate him character. This take says Nagi Seishiro will be a top 3 player immediately upon his return. The name Kimi loves Nagi absolutely checks out. They say he still has the most potential with his ego coming back. Other players in Blue Lock fell off like Rin, Shido, and Isagi, so it's easier for Nagi to rank higher. Side B will make him stronger, and he'll have passes from Itoshi Sai and a better Isagi who hasn't played with him since the U20 match. This is a very hard take to debate. I feel like the hardest take so far. I think the players ranking will always change depending on who performs and doesn't. Like, for example, Isagi and Rin probably go lower, Shido stays the same, and Barou goes up because of his goal. The points you made about Nagi's potential and him getting passes from Itoshi Sai and Isagi is true. Side B, I doubt it would make him any stronger, but it's more the fact of his ego coming back, so is that grounds for him becoming top 3? And I would say yes, because Kaneshiro loves this guy. I mean, literally brought him back by making a whole different arc for him. He definitely likes Nagi more than Barou or Shido, so he'll have more significance than them. I do agree that he'll be really strong upon his return, but I think the rankings will really change this arc. Depending on who gets the narrative significance and whatnot, there will be moments where he is top 3, maybe even the best. Including his return, I think they'll make it a grand return where he is like carrying the team, but then there is going to be some other moments where we see Barou perform, Shido perform, Rin do really good, and then he only floats around the top 5 or like the best strikers. So honestly, I don't know what the community thinks of Nagi's ranking when he comes back, so me personally, I'm gonna give this a hot rating, but let me know what y'all think about this take too. We're almost at the end, folks. This one says Kunigami will score in the England game. There was no user for this one, but they're keeping it short and simple, saying he's needed against a more physically capable team, so he'll get his moment finally after 200 chapters. Yeah, they did Kunigami absolutely dirty. 2 games in a row as a defender, hyped up as a perfect striker, didn't live up to those expectations. He got 2 goals, but hasn't had that real standout goal that we've seen with other Blue Lockers. This kind of gave him the rep in the community that Kunigami should have moved to the defensive midfielder spot, or most people would put him in the defensive midfielder position. But y'all, he has ambidextrous legs. He occupied the box a lot when he was a striker. We just need to bring him back as a forward. It's literally just potential sitting there. The potential man. And Kaneshiro just forgot the wild card existed or something. He got no backstory for that. So give him some development. It makes sense that his weapons will be super useful against England since they are more based on physicality. So I agree with this. I haven't seen anyone else say this though. Most people have him as a defender, so I'll give this a mild to hot take. Our final 2 takes. This is about the Spain game, and they say it will by far be the best in all of Blue Lock. To recap Sea Bear's defense, they say it's the most hyped up game, has the most interesting plot points, like Itoshi Sai's backstory, Bunny's backstory, Rin's revenge and whatnot. Bunny is a super strong striker, and that the U20 match, which is arguably the best game of Blue Lock, focused on Sai and Rin too. This is another very hard take to go over because I think the top 3 games are the Spain game, the Germany game, and then the France rematch. I guess it kind of depends on who's your favorite. If you like Kaiser, you want to see Germany. If you like Sai and Rin, you want to see Spain. And if you like Loki and Hugo, you'll pick France. Taking opinions aside though, objectively speaking, I do think this game has a lot of mystery behind it, or has the most mystery behind it, which makes it super anticipated. However, I think this comes down strictly to opinion because people will enjoy the PXG game more, the U20 game, all of these different matches throughout Blue Lock, because it is all of our opinions at the end of the day. From what I've seen as a YouTuber, most people think the Germany game is going to be the best, or that the PXG game or the U20 game will never be topped. But I think out of the games, Germany and Spain are probably the best contenders for the best game in all of Blue Lock, so I'm gonna give this a mild to hot take. We're finally at the last hot take, and this is gonna be for the ending of the U20 World Cup. This one says Germany will be the ones to win the U20 World Cup. Unknown Prussian said a lot here, but to recap it, Kaiser is the perfect rival for Isagi, and the story is set up where Baratsuta takes over Blue Lock. Germany has many good players, and it could be a humbling experience for France too. The perfect way to go out is against Kaiser, as he is Isagi's best rival. Alright, I saved the best for last because this is probably the hardest take of the video. We're literally trying to predict the whole ending of this arc. I will agree and say if there was an opponent to lose to, it would be Germany. Kaiser has been hyped up since last arc as Isagi's biggest rival, and with all of his skills, he's the most capable of doing so. We know Ness is stronger after the PXG game too. A potential new gen goalkeeper, like you mentioned, is kind of interesting to think about. I've actually heard that theory before, but I feel like it would be a different team. It would also give more reasoning to why Japan lost to Germany because they have 2 new gens. And for this take in general, I do think Japan will end up losing if and only if they continue the manga after the U20 World Cup. As a series, Blue Lock has been going on for a while now, and this has been hyped up as the penultimate arc, so I'm not sure if they would continue it or not. If this is the final arc, Blue Lock will probably win just to show how far they've come and to end it on a high note. In terms of narrative though, it would be so much better if they did lose and decided to continue. This game is the most unpredictable since we can both lose and continue on in Blue Lock, or win against them and then this is the final arc. Whatever the case is, I do agree with you that the narrative is hinting at Blue Lock losing, and I think it would be the most interesting ending. I don't know if they'll win against France per se. I think they'll win against Blue Lock, but to win the whole U20 World Cup is a pretty hot take. So that'll be the rating I'm giving this. I do agree with most of the points you made though. All right, that's gonna be it. 10 of the craziest Blue Lock U20 World Cup hot takes I've seen. Thank you to everyone who submitted a hot take. This time around, y'all really made it challenging for me to answer them. If you did submit one and it didn't end up getting picked for the video, I will be covering the rest of them on stream, so don't worry and be sure to check those out. YouTube highly recommends this video just for you, and if you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching as always. I appreciate y'all so much, and I'll see y'all in the next one.